Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the undercard of the Joshua versus Wallin and Wilder versus Parker, aka the Day of Reckoning card. If you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do indeed like video, and let's get straight into it. So typically I don't do whole prediction videos for undercards of fights, but this card is such a good card, and so I felt like it would be rude not to. I'm not going to be going into a crazy amount of analysis as much as I do in typical prediction videos that I do, but for both the co-main events for this card that I have done in-depth prediction videos, if you have not already gone and watched that, I would recommend you do so if you are interested in this card. But yeah, so we're going to start off with so we're basically just going to rattle for each one, say who I think is going to win via what form of way, and similar to how I do my YouTube boxing predictions if any of you have watched one of them. But to start off with, I'm going to start off with the Hrgović versus Domori fight. Hrgović coming off a bit of a lackluster fight again against McKean. It wasn't a great fight, and the fight before versus Zhang wasn't a great performance, but I suppose that win has aged well. But even then, people thought he shouldn't have won, and it wasn't a great performance. And just as recent form, he's not been fighting amazing. Domori, though, this is a big step up for him. He's not fought at a top level in a long time. He's 41 now. The last time he fought at top level, I believe, was against David Hay, and that was a long time ago, and he got stopped in the first round in that fight. And so he's been fighting well, he's been winning fights, but it's been against much lower opponents, and this is a big opportunity for him to prove a point. And the winner, I think Domori will win via unanimous decision. I could see this fight going to decision. Domori, I don't think, has the best of gas tanks, but I think he could rattle off a few early rounds. I think Hrgović has been a bit of a slower fighter recently. He's been hitting shots, but they've not really been that consistent when he's been throwing them out, and he's just looked a bit uninterested, a bit unmotivated as of recent. And I just think that Domori's going to want it a bit more. I think in these early rounds to mid rounds, he's going to be throwing a lot. He does throw quite a lot. He's got a good shot variation, good combinations, and I think he's going to do enough to get a unanimous decision victory. Starting off with my predictions, I'm going to go with an upset with Domori, like I say, winning via a decision. I don't think there's going to be loads of decisions on this card. I don't think that many of them going to be going to decision, but for this one, that's what my prediction will be. Moving on now to Sanchez versus Farr. So this fight being a big heavyweight clash, Farr is coming off recent performances that haven't been amazing. He fought Joseph Parker not too long ago. That was a decent fight. It was an alright performance. It was a closer fight than I suppose some might have expected, and Farr did do himself justice, but then he went on to fight Lucas Brown, and he got absolutely obliterated in the first round, and he just looked completely out of it in the first round, and that was a big knockout, and I'm sure that's had an effect on him. I believe he's fought once since then in like a 4-round fight, so he managed to get a win, so at least he's not coming off a loss, but it's still, as of recent, in tougher level opposition, he has been struggling, and especially that Lucas Brown fight was a big wake-up call for him, I'm sure. Frank Sanchez, though, he's been fighting relatively consistently. He's been fighting not the toughest level of opposition. He's been progressive nicely, though. He's been getting some good stoppages as of recent. He's coming off a comfortable, dominating stoppage win. Something with Sanchez, he does get hurt a bit as well, and even in his last fight against an opponent which wasn't really that high level, he did get hurt, and there's defensive problems there, and he can his footwork can go a bit, but I think that's the same with Farr as well. Their footworks aren't amazing. I think Farr can move better. I think Sanchez has more spite in his shots. I think Sanchez throws better shot variety. I think Farr's probably got a better jab. I think it makes for a decent fight. I'm going to go with Sanchez to win via TKO in round 5. I think he's going to have the power. I think he's going to be able to get him on the inside, and then I just don't think Farr's going to be able to take shots for that Sanchez offering, and he's going to be able to get a stoppage in that way. Moving on to Makhmudov versus Kabayel. I think this is going to be a tough fight. I think it's quite an evenly matched fight, to be completely honest. Makhmudov is on an absolutely destructive run at the moment. He's been dominating every fight and stopping every opponent as of recent, and like I say, he's been very, very destructive, and he seems to be the guy that nobody really wants to fight, and he's a very scary guy to be fighting in the division. Cabello, though, this is a big chance for him. It's a fight which is his first big fight, really, and, well, I mean, he's fought people like Chisora and things like that, but I feel like this is his first big fight, to be honest, and it's on a big card, and he's had rumours around him fighting other big fighters in the division, but nothing's ever really come to fruition. But now he's got this fight here. As a fighter, I don't rate him crazily highly. I think he's got a decent shot variation. I think he's got alright combinations. He's got solid timing. He's not as much of a knockout artist as some heavyweights can be. I think he can move alright. Sometimes he's willing to just stand and trade and can get dragged into a war. I don't feel like you can get dragged into a war with Makhmudov because, I think he is just going to win in that aspect. And Makhmudov, even as of recent, I think he has been picking his shots a bit better. He's definitely an in-close type fighter in my opinion, but he's happy to just kind of sit in close, and because of, I suppose, how much of a scary type of figure he is, and with how much power he's throwing, he doesn't really need to land many punches, and he knows that, so I think he picks his punches quite well. He finds the angles relatively well, and he just absolutely destroys you in that aspect. And I'm going to go with a Makhmudov win via KO in round 4. I'm going to go with a KO victory. I think it could be a very good stoppage from Makhmudov, and that's really going to make a statement in my opinion. And I don't know if it's going to make people forced to fight him, but I feel like it definitely will progress him along very nicely. Moving on to Opetaia versus Zorro. I think this is, first of all, an absolute travesty that this isn't for a title. I have no justifiable reason as to why the IBF have got him out and taken the belt away from him and stripped him of it. It's really sad to see. Obviously Zorro isn't ranked in the top 15, but that shouldn't really mean anything. Like, it should just be good to see him fighting and fighting consistently, and him getting out there and fighting still a top level contender in Zorro. And so, it's sad to see, but Opetaia is coming off a destructive victory against Thompson. It was one which he really showed his levels, showed his class, showed that he was levels above Thompson. And Zorro, I mean, he's coming off a victory. It's just levels, I think, in my opinion, like opponent-wise. I believe it was against Horsey Burton, and not to say he's a bad fighter, but there's definitely levels, and I believe Zorro struggled a little bit in that fight. And so Opetaia, I really rate Opetaia as a fighter, and I think he's the best cruiserweight in the world. I think he moves so well. His punch variation, his timing, his ability to get in close, and then to also fight at a mid-range as well. I think he's just such a great fighter, and I'm gonna go with him to get a TKO in round 6. Like, I think it could be a very easy night for him. I think Zorro might be a bit out of his depth, to be completely honest, and Opetaia proved that, and he proved that he also doesn't kind of overlook opponents and switch off in fights, I believe, because he could have done that against Thompson and probably just cruised to a unanimous decision, but he knew that he was levels above and proved that. And I mean, fair play to Zorro, he's taking his chances. It's a huge chance for him, just like Lyndon Arthur on this card as well, and a couple other fighters are taking big chances. I mean, Zorro, I believe he was on that Boxers card not too long ago, the Boxer series, so he's come a long way, and so it's impressive to see him on this. But yeah, I think Opetaia is going to prove that there is levels, and he's going to be able to get him out there and continue to be one of my favourite fighters around at the moment. Moving on to Dubois versus Miller. This fight is probably the 50-50, most 50-50 fight in my opinion on this card. I think Dubois is going to have to want to prove a point. I think he's going to be coming in with a little bit more about him, coming off bit of a lackluster performance versus Lorena, and then the Usyk fight, and I feel like he's going to want to prove a point. And I think if he can get into the later rounds, like everybody's been mentioning, Miller is definitely there to gas out and there to be tired with the amount of weight that he is carrying about, and he's proved that he does get tired in fights and does get tired badly. But I don't know, I feel like Miller's going to win. I think Miller's going to win via TKO in round 3. I think it could be an early stoppage. Miller, I'm sure, is going to come in very wildly and recklessly as per usual, but I don't know, I just don't think Dubois, I've seen him in fights now, and I've seen him been hurt in fights now, and I just don't think he's got that mental toughness. And I think if Miller puts it on him with all that strength and with all that power, Dubois is most definitely going to be backed up and just going to struggle to get away from that. And obviously if he can, and he can abide by it, then he could definitely get into the later rounds and win. But I just don't think he'll be able to keep him at a jab. I don't think he's going to be able to stop him. I don't think he's going to be able to move away from punches. and I think Miller's going to win via early stoppage, and it's going to be interesting to see what he says afterwards and where he then can go on to off of a big destructive victory against Dubois, which in my opinion I think is going to be the case. And then to move on to the final one of the undercard, the final fight of the undercard that I'm going to be speaking about, Bivol versus Arthur. This is one for the world title. It's a huge fight. It's like the rest of them, a huge fight, and it's going to be a good fight, I think. Bivol has proven, and he said now, he doesn't look for knockouts in fights, and he just wants to get the win, and that's such a good mindset to come in with. But he's also just been coming off fights where he's been so dominant as of recent. He has had a while out, so that could definitely play a factor. But Bivol, I think he's going to have to stay switched on in this fight and really not overlook an opponent here in Lyndon Arthur. But coming off that last performance, being such a destructive performance and being such a dominating performance over Ramirez, it was one where he definitely pieced him up. He showed his explosive elements and also showed a great defense for that the whole time. He's shown that he could fight on the front foot, the back foot, mid-range, close range, such a wide variety of options that he can fight at, and he was so clinical in his work as well. I think Bivol's going to win, and I think he's going to get a stoppage. I think he's going to stop him in round 9. I've seen Arthur. He's been obviously stopped versus Yard. He's been in closer fights as of recent. That Boris Crichton fight was a tough fight for him. It was a close fight. He does know how to close out a show. He's definitely not somebody who should be overlooked. He's somebody who can go in there and win rounds, and like I say, Bivol's going to still have to be on his top game to win this and not be thinking just of the Beterbiev fight. But I still think he could get a stoppage, and I think it probably will be a late stoppage where he's just outworking him and just comes with an explosive combination, which he often throws, and then we'll be able to win from that. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you didn't, like if you subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.